So I put out a video yesterday, and I was saying, like, it's my last video because da 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 da. And the way I ended it was not really hopeful for humans. It was kind of going back to, oh God, this is bad, this is poison, this is whatever. And it wasn't a fully thought out ending. And it may have characterized certain things as, well, it may have mischaracterized certain things. The system does not want you to mischaracterize. But why, Jill? Why would you succumb to what the system is saying, Jillian? Why are you being a bootlicker? Why are you trying to kiss their ass? No, it's not trying to kiss anyone's ass. Because I know through my protocol and then through what I've been doing the last 3 years during this climate change, it's working. I'm not saying that you can do what I'm doing, but it's working. And since I am in a relationship with someone who I do get immunized from at least 4 times a month, that's how I get my innovation. Because he's been exposed to all the different therapies, eats all the food, had his past relationships. Okay. And so I get, an injection of evolution. And then I have my own evolution within me that is waking up. And yesterday I felt a little surge of energy, but I didn't feel like heart palpitations like I usually do around the time that I was typing and stuff. And, I ate some food and I did take a nap, but then I was writing stuff about hybridization of animals and humans and why we have so much so many diverse animals out there that we also take in as pets. And there's so many reasons why we have pets and everything else. And there's the one side of it, which is companionship and release of hormones. The other side of it, your people's, oh gosh, their lifestyle saving things. And then the other side of it is taking on the characteristics of those animals. So, yeah, I was in that notion. I was typing about stuff, about animals and hybridization and Marvel comics. I wasn't going too deep into the Marvel comics, but you see, if you remember the movies, Star Trek and Star Wars and all that, they're showing you such diversity in the population, from the microbes, the animals, all the diversity and everything else. And so then I felt such pain in my arms. I mean, my shoulder, not such pain, but a little bit of pain, that I was like, I got to go to sleep and escape this pain. And I knew my husband, he was about to stop for the night, but I called him. He said he was going to call me when he stopped on the side of the road or whatever, wherever his rest stop. I called him and said, honey, I got to go to sleep. I have to sleep because I'm tired. It's like 6:41 and I'm tired. And yeah, I did go to sleep and I felt the pain in my arms and my shoulders. And then, I know I drank a bunch of water because it was hot and there were storms coming through and I still had the power. And then I woke up and ate some salami and I ate some Hawaiian bread and I felt better. And then I also had to blow my nose. So I had a lot of mucus come out of my nose. I didn't have to release demons down there, but it was just blowing to the nose, relieving the pressure. Because the shoulders, there's pressure in my shoulders, pressure on my arms, my wrists were sore. I couldn't even barely hold my phone. I mean, it was like, okay. And I knew I felt a little bit of the pixelation of something else hatching, another evolution of energy or something hatching. And I'm like, fuck. And I also had, I don't know if you still see it, but I also had the circles, but it was worse yesterday. They're a little bit, you can still see, I mean, if you look at my eyes right now, they're still like, I'm just a little bit tired, but I'm also just more reflective right now. And so after receiving that notification from YouTube saying like, okay, well, there's some misinformation and all that shit. I'm like, ah, fuck. Cause I knew I was teetering, I was towing the line when it came to how I was characterizing the public health therapies. And that's when I was also posting about the hybridization of people and animals. But no, I wouldn't think that we're going to have anyone with a dog head walking down the street, because they would be destroyed by somebody. So an assistant wouldn't do that. They wouldn't terrorize people like that. But there are certain characteristics of animals that if humans take on, that they would become more advanced, become more keen, more sensitive to certain things. And so I was thinking, like, how do you advance humans? Like, how do you advance humans? Since I have a husband, okay, that's how I get advanced, is releasing my own colony-forming units of advancement. And then all my experiences of reading and my experiences with people and observations about family and friends and politics, religion, science, all that. And then me having to make choices on how I want to manage the suffering, which is inevitable. Because when you're hatching these hatchlings in your body, there is a suffering, and you have to find a way to manage it and so it doesn't kill you. And so you have to release demons and all that, eat food and embrace whatever is going on. So how do you advance humans? Well, shit. It's a difficult thing to advance humans because you can't force things on them. They've tried to do that in the torture chambers in the Middle Ages, I'm sure. They've used extreme punishments for those that steal and lie and commit adultery. And oh my God, it's so like medieval. I mean, yeah, medieval, mid-evolution, evil, evolution. Oh shit. And so after waking, so I slept okay last night, and I woke up this morning, and it was around 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock. I'm like, okay, I just decided to go take a shower, whatever, drink my coffee, and I wrote this because I knew that this is how the system wanted to advance humans. I knew that the food supply, that's why they're changing the food supply. So that way we don't torture animals, sentient beings who are becoming more advanced. As the particle acceleration influences the neurological connectivity, and now we're seeing consciousness of actual human consciousness within these animals. Then animals are becoming more intelligent, where they're getting retribution against the fishermen. The sharks are becoming smarter and looking for all the prey at the shore, like in Florida and Hawaii and in California. And animals are even turning on their owners. When owners are keeping them, locked up or doing this or that, or they leave a baby, that and the animals haven't been fed in such a long time. These animals are finding ways to survive because they have to survive their owners and survive their community and survive the world they live in. And so I'm thinking like, oh shit, okay. So the system is doing a lot of experiments and seeing how these animals and humans and all that stuff. So biological, intellectual advancement of humans, yeah, we have to advance humans. And everything is on the table. Everything is on the table. What do you mean everything's on the table? Well, you have to let me just read this, because I'm just like, dude, this is crazy. Biological, intellectual advancement of humans. So I'm sure some of you can agree with me that humans are sorely needing to advance themselves and become more intellectually capable, biophysically aligned, and exceedingly adaptable to their surroundings. Okay? And become more exceedingly adaptable. That's okay. And this is also the thing too. I just realized. I was watching a show last night. It was called Tell Them That I Love You or something. It was about FC, facilitative communication. And it was about facilitative communication. And a lady took on a cerebral palsy, nonverbal, non-communicative a student and then used a typing keyboard to communicate and taught the student how to communicate. And then she fell in love with him and had sex with him. And then she went to jail for like a couple years, and there's a whole thing about it. And the issue the family had, because what she did was she developed a sexual relationship with a nonverbal and someone that may not have been intellectually capable to consent to a physical relationship that basically woke up the beast within him. And so how she justified it was that the fact that she was helping him use his hand to type out the communication, so all the communication that was consenting to that sexual relationship was typed into that device, that little computer that they developed for those who are nonverbal, and they can type out everything they want. And so they think that she was influencing him to say yes or no or whatever. But my whole point with that was the fact that she woke up the beast within him because she had sex with him. And it caused then him to be more focused on masturbation. And he missed her. Of course, she missed him. Maybe she was using him. Maybe she didn't. I don't know. But anyways, he was at that lower level of intelligence where he was more about his sexuality. Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, block. He was more about his sexuality than he was about anything else, because that was what the beast woke up within. And so why I chose to go down this road and say this, because we have a lot of humans out there that are baser level instinct, like literally baser level instinct. And when you're baser level instinct, how do you intellectually advance yourself when all you're worried about is sex and feeling good and worrying about food and air and water, and that's pretty much it. Good times and revenue disease and all that. So baser level instincts is like the lower levels of Maslow. And so when you think about Maslow's ladder of hierarchy of needs, at what point will all humans get to the point where they get to the top of the pyramid, where they become self-actualized, and they're not worried about sex and companionship and having a bunch of people to validate them, and they're able to advance themselves by themselves and become a better human and release all of the demons of resistance. Okay? And so that's why the system does what it does, because they want to study human behavior. They want to study how a person's stuck in a body that they can't speak or whatever. What are they thinking inside? And yeah, some are very intelligent, but they can't get their body to move. But when you can't get your body to move, yes, your brain can go in a million, like Stephen Hawking, he can't move, but his brain was like so smart. Okay? But then how do we get humans that don't need to have a wheelchair or somebody always attending to their basic needs? And so the system develops so much diversity so they can figure out how to then advance humans that can handle change and pain and all of that through their body, mind, and spirit. And so that's why you need to have so many people. And so anyway, so I'm sure some of you can agree with me that humans are sorely needing to advance themselves and become more intellectually capable, biophysically aligned, and potentially even exceedingly adaptable to their surroundings, because many are not. Many are so intolerant to the air, food, and water, to change, to economical changes, to physical changes, to all these different changes. And then they become predatory. Okay? But here's the thing. Everyone who has animals and children and in their politics, religion, science, and all that stuff, they are They are giving their DNA. They have given their DNA to the system. Their DNA was given to the system. There's a record of your DNA somewhere in the system. And then they follow the person. They look for the medical records. They look for any other records, criminal records, whatever records. There's a record of you somewhere, your DNA footprint. And whether you live or die, it doesn't even matter to the system. They have your DNA. And it'll be used, it'll be gene edited, it'll be advanced for the next future population. So how does one develop more advanced humans? Through the food supply. Yeah, genetically modified. Through the air. Absolutely. Climate change. Yeah. Remember, every spring, summer, and fall, winter, or summer, fall, whatever, that climate change is so aggressive. And then, people were given the public health therapies as well as other remedies to stop the body from releasing. So they develop even more diversity within. And then they inevitably will have a cancer, disease, a chronic illness, an autoimmune disorder. They go to the hospital. They get blood taken from them, samples taken from them. And that will be used later on for who knows what. I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just what it is. It's humanity. Okay? So how does one develop more advanced humans? Food supply, air, climate change. Because again, when the climate changes, you'll have an immune system activation and then things start hatching. Things start coming to surface. And sometimes it's violence. Sometimes it's, intellectual capabilities. Sometimes it's musical capabilities. Sometimes it's just energy or manic depressiveness. Okay? And so also, the public health therapies, the gene edits, the antibodies. And now I had to understand antibodies. Now antibodies are something that you develop yourself in reaction to an antigen that comes to your body, fornicates with your body, and then you produce an offspring called an antibody. Now, what you do with the antibody is up to you. You can harbor a bunch of them inside and they turn into cancer, disease, and chronic illness, or you can release the demons. That's the whole thing with the J world, is releasing the antibodies of destruction that I've chosen, without knowing it, to hold inside because of my practices back then in the remedies world. Taking cough suppressants, immune suppression, drugs. What do you mean by that? Well, sometimes, pot can be an immune suppressive type of thing. Alcohol develops immune activation and immune suppression as well. People take elderberry syrup. They take pineapple juice to stop the body from releasing. So people actually choose to keep those antibodies inside. Because no matter what, you will be exposed to antigen in the air, food, and water. And then your body has to release the demons. But if people choose to hold on to the demons inside because of their practices in the medical, holistic, energy healing world, then you've chosen to harbor those antibodies that eventually that do sometimes turn into children, sexual reproduction, or they turn into cancer, disease, and chronic illness. And so the system gave you the choice. Well, you could suffer, but they didn't want you to suffer. They kept giving you options to not suffer. They kept giving you the remedies, the surgeries. They kept giving you those options, and you signed on the dotted line. And so when you sign on the dotted line and you've given permission for the system to stop your immune system from releasing, then essentially you've chosen to harbor the antibodies. And yeah, they're gene edits, but you can still survive them. And that's where the whole J world is. The J world comes from understanding that no matter what, you're going to be gene edited by somebody. Air, food, water, or sexual reproduction, or let me go to the next one. What else? How do you advance humans? Through sex, companionship, sexual reproduction, because you're going to get immunized by somebody. Through sexuality, and then you reproduce an offspring called a baby, or antibodies, or cancer. And then that cancer, that baby, those antibodies are then used in science for the next wave of humans. Okay? And so if I didn't have my husband, and I didn't get any VACC-INESs, and I'm not on any therapies, how am I going to get advanced through my society? Will it be through this food supply? Because I can't live on my garden alone if I had a garden. And since I'm around diverse people, inevitably when I do come into contact with people and I do eat food that might have gene edits in it, I'm going to have to find a way to survive the editing process, which you're going to have to anyways, the evolution process, and rebuild the body. Okay? And so through the above mentioned list of potential advancement, a population of 500 million from the Middle Ages would increasingly become more numerous in numbers every decade until you get a widely diverse population like you see today. The mega diverse politics, the billions of religions, and infinite scientific arguments of today's world came from the population boom ever since American became independent. America became independent. Consequently, the system developed so much life with varying degrees of strength and weaknesses, and the government developed scientists study the behaviors of the people born from the current culture of the day. That is why you saw the Farm Bureau of the 1930s take so many pictures of the people of the past sleeping in their cars. Like I've seen pictures of like men sleeping in their cars over there at the coal mines, and women like Dorothea Lange taking pictures of those in the Dust Bowl after working in the coal mines, or pictures of women and children trying to make it during the Dust Bowl of Kansas or Oklahoma. Okay, so they knew that what was going on. They knew ever since the Middle Ages. That's why Nostradamus was able to prophesize when the end of the world is going to be, because they knew eventually the system was going to change the climate and people were going to be releasing demons, and the world as we know it would change. Not so ending like literally, but the world as we know it, of consumerism and rampant reproduction, large families and whatever else, that would end. Okay? The system needed a photological, now that's not a real word, but I made it up, a photological chronology of the hard times and the good times, as well as the biological timeline of the day to reflect back on. Morbidly speaking, yes, you also hear about evil men and women using children as science experiments in remote places like Epstein Island or Fox Island on Lake Michigan, which also develops potential aggressive prototypes of talent. I cannot say I agree with what the system does to develop such diversity and talents, but I can assure you in the wild it is just as uncomfortable watching an animal become dinner to a prey. Okay? So the methodologies that the system must use to advance humans so they don't become extinct is like watching, a seal run away from a killer whale. It's like watching a gazelle run away from a lion and then get mauled and attacked. It's like watching these girls come back after being abused by someone and they're just like, oh my God, blah, blah. And it's uncomfortable to watch, but that either will make you stronger or you die from that. You only have two choices when someone gives you a hard time, whether it's a system, or whether it's a friend or a family or some stranger. You have the choice now to channel that energy of trauma into something amazing, or you teach your kids to repeat the same mistakes and then die from the trauma, or you do something different and survive it and then become so strong, so intellectually capable, and so adaptable. And then you don't put yourself in those positions again. All right? So you would think humans are far more civilized than a mere predator in the wild. And while that may be true, humans are still animals or mammals, but we do have the ability to learn and advance ourselves even after we go through the hell of innovation. Since humans have no predators, the system must develop predators to make the humans stronger or else risk all-out extinction. Of course, the road to hell of innovation cannot end up in total annihilation of the human race. So the system developed diversity of people, animals, microbes, and controlled games of war to strengthen the population. And that's like football, soccer, and that's also developing, terror type stuff, okay? We have no natural predators yet again, so the system must develop them to keep our senses keen and on our toes. And so that's why I don't go out in public, because I know that there's always be somebody popping off in the population. They were taught one way through who knows what, through the movies, through video games, through even war, the atrocities of war. And then somebody in their family showed them pictures too early on that then warped their mind, and then they're acting out whatever it is they saw or what happened to them. And then there it goes. Now you have to watch out for people. And that's the way the system will strengthen the population, yes, and also those warped people will take out the weakest people. Because you have a choice who you get with, you have a choice where you go, you have a choice what you do with your body, mind, and spirit. And if you're walking alone at midnight or at night by yourself, you're putting yourself in a position to be harmed. Well, the system says it's dangerous out there. Don't walk at night. Probably not jog in the park, so early in the morning, or don't drive down this street over here because of this and this. And they warn you, telling you, hey, there's danger here, there's danger there, whatever. People are still doing it. Well, who do you have to blame, right? Okay, so currently the world is experiencing the road to hell of innovation. And many people are suffering astronomically from this road to hell of strengthening the human race. Many will have issues with adaptation, change, and evolution. And so naturally, there will be many deaths as the weaker humans and animals succumb to the changes and choose to end their suffering at their own hand, with their own consent and permission from family and friends. Since the system conditioned people to embrace death someday and never suffer too much, most are okay with how they will inevitably end up. However, there are others who are resisting the notion that the inevitable for them will be sped up. Okay, so those of you who are resisting the chemtrails and the GMO and all this stuff that's going on, and climate change and whatever, and nanotechnology, you're resisting that because you think it's going to harm you or do something to you or kill you. Maybe this is the time for those in resistance to start reevaluating their belief systems. If you are resisting the acceleration of people's expectations to die someday through your perception of what to blame anything on, you have a chance to reconsider your lifestyle, your belief system, and your politics in your religion and science dogmas. You are in the perfect place to start doing something different. And so that's where the Jilly Juice protocol comes in. It's not to cure you. Okay, now we're in a totally different climate than where we were back when the Jilly Juice started, okay? So I did so much Jilly Juice way back when, and I was doing constant waterfalls. I got so skinny and I didn't eat a lot of food. And so, yeah, that's not optimal today. You cannot cure your disease in your body today because eventually that disease will then want to bloom and your body will want to push it out and will be able to handle energy conversion. And so, back then I did so much Jilly Juice, and then finally I got off the Jilly Juice, didn't do as much, ate a bunch of food, felt stuff. But then when the climate changed in 2019, it was when the things were really, everything that I put to sleep through the Jilly Juice woke up. And then I had to eat a bunch of food. I drank so much milk and all that stuff. So through my protocol, using the Jilly Juice temporarily and developing a tolerance for the ever-changing food supply and resilience to the public health therapies, a patient, adaptable, and clear-headed person might be capable of advancing themselves. I cannot guarantee you have what it takes to advance yourself in body, mind, and spirit, because the pain I've gone through and will continue to go through is like a marathon, not a sprint. This is not a wham bam thank you ma'am. Okay, even though I pooped this morning and I drinking my coffee right now. Yesterday I was having to sleep through and go to sleep and just deal with the pain in both of my shoulders. These are lymph nodes. I had no rashes under my arms, and no major heart palpitations. It was just a pain in the shoulders. As the body develops the growth, because I felt some kind of pixelation of something like firecrackers inside, but it wasn't like firecrackers. It's like a heat wave. And then I get the sweats, and then I would feel the pain in my arms as my body is pushing whatever through. So progressively, my body is waking up the demons and then releasing them through my lymphatic system, through my immune system, through my blood, through my digestive system, and I'm eating food to support that process and pooping and all that stuff. So I couldn't tell you how many coliform units of innovation I have in my body that I must deal with and face. Okay? And so it's like a marathon. And the worst part of it was the last couple weeks. The worst part of it was also in July 2022 when the climate changed yet again. And it was really aggressive. And that was before my dog died. She died in the winter of 2022 and the beginning of 2023. And so you must pace yourself and condition for the long journey. And there is no telling when the pain and suffering and changes will stop long enough for you to feel normal. Now I'll get these bouts of feeling normal and then I'm like, crap. But I feel good right now. I mean, I'm a little bit tired, but that's just because I had to deal with that energy yesterday. But even I still must deal with the colony-forming units of hatchlings and feel surges of energy, then hunger, fatigue, and pain in my arms and shoulders. But it is a manageable pain, and I feed the energy and blow my nose and poop when I need to. Okay, so life never ends and pain never ends, but the influence is not as excruciatingly intolerable. Now, I remember having the headaches, the migraines, and the pulsating on each of my temples, and that's when the body is pushing shit through the brain. And if you don't have strong blood vessels in your brain and in your heart, people, do die from strokes and heart attacks. Okay, you're seeing that on Facebook. People who've had, headaches and they ignore it and then they die from a stroke. See, that's the thing about conditioning. It's a progressive journey, and it starts with your alimentary canal. It starts opening up here and opening up down there. And when you clear those passageways up here and down there, then you have to eat food, and you're going to feel everything. You're going to feel your body. You're going to feel the heart, the tachycardia. And that's the thing, is if you're not conditioned for that, because it's all a conditioning process, you must pace yourself and condition for the journey. And there is no telling when the pain, suffering, and change will stop long enough for you to feel normal. There's no telling. So that's why I'm saying my world is not going to be for everybody. Because some people have spent their whole life in fucking pain and they just don't have it within them. And so if they feel good with they're doing their drugs and their alcohol and they're not a danger to anyone, and they feel good with using their remedies and all their surgeries and everything else, and they're feeling great, and that's, then I can't fault them for it. I'm not going to be like, yeah, come join my world, because you can't. I'm not going to advocate people take all their drugs and do all that. I wouldn't be, it would be hypocritical of me to be like, well, okay, take your drugs and do whatever. But my world is for those that can intellectually, biologically, biophysically handle the pain and suffering and listen to indicators. And also understand that nothing is poison out there. It is advancing humans. We are going through a human advancement. And if people don't want to advance themselves, they are going to do the surgeries. They're going to take their pills or powders, supplements, detoxes. They're going to stick with their dogmatic belief systems in the politics, religion, and sciences. And that is your choice. Okay, so you're getting the choice to advance yourself, but that does require a tolerance for pain and suffering, and also reading things that are different than what you've ever read before. The tolerance for pain and suffering is an advancement. And so, again, when I went to the grocery store over there at Walmart, and I didn't feel the anxiety, because the reason why I felt the anxiety at the Walmart was because I had a demon that was birthing itself. And so I felt the dizziness a couple weeks ago, like a couple months ago. And it was since, like, again, March 29th. It was the end of March, beginning of April. And you saw me just acting a little bit erratic because I knew something was happening. I knew something was going on. And I knew also the eclipse was also a harbinger of doom. Because, now we're seeing we had like the back-to-back tornadoes. Now we have the heat. So we have the back-to-back tornadoes. Florida and Texas and other places are being flooded out. And now we have the aggressive heat. 200,000 people yesterday had no power. For a minute, I had no power. Well, not no power. I had power, but I didn't have internet for about maybe 5 minutes. And it came back on. But Canton, Ohio was like 76, maybe 100,000 people. When you have 200,000 people in Northeast Ohio be without power, that's fucking insane in this crazy heat. And when you're in crazy heat, such as this, there's going to be immune system activation and hatchlings. It's like an incubator. When you're incubating something, eventually it's going to come to life, whatever it is that you're incubating. And when that comes to life, then people don't survive immune system activation, or they get the pain and suffering, or they're out there driving really fast because they got a surge of energy. And when you get a surge of energy, you have to release it. Some people release it in really fucked up ways. And so when I wrote that piece about Mother Lode, the band that I met, my husband, him and I first got together, and we go to this bar, and they were playing all this music that was such aggressive death metal. Okay? Yeah, right now, it's like I'm going back in time. Like the rings of memories are coming up, and the most recent one is meeting the band, the lead singer of Mother Lode, which is a local band out here, and the Korn, that song "Come Undone." It's such an aggressive release. Yeah, people right now are releasing the fucking demons, and they're either having a bunch of sex, or they're out there an activist, or they're doing so many drugs because they can't handle the pain and suffering, or they're driving really fast, or they're having issues, or not say having issues, they're commandeering, buses and driving really fast and doing stuff. So you're seeing a lot of people act out the hatchlings of energy. And when you get energy surge like I do, you know what I channel it through? I channel it through Facebook Reels. I channel it through the AI. I channel it through typing. And sometimes the pain is so much, so I have to go to sleep. And then when I wake up, I eat, and then, oh gosh. And so you're watching people hatch their trauma, their innovation, their strengths and their weaknesses. And it's a pretty crazy process. And then you hear the sirens. People don't survive it. They have a heart attack or a stroke, or they die suddenly. Okay? And so now that you know that's how the system is advancing humans, you have the choice. If you want to suppress that advancement, suppress the evolution, then yeah, you're going to do what you do out there all over Facebook, resisting and demonizing. And even, again, I got caught up in that, and then YouTube actually had to correct me. So thanks, YouTube, because then now, see, whenever I get corrected by the system, it forced me to start realizing that I was taking a side. I was not being diplomatic about the situation. Because where I'm coming from the point of view of those who are dying suddenly and dealing with family members who are dying suddenly and they're aged, or the grandmas and grandpas, and they get, a therapy that gives them innovation, but they don't have what it takes to deal with the innovation. But even though that may have been the trigger, I'm not saying correlation isn't equal causation. Of course, all the inserts say whatever they say. But people are already expected to die anyways. They're expected to pass away. They can't handle pain and suffering. And if you have to take a therapy for whatever it was marketed for, because people are not taking these therapies to be innovated. They're not taking it to advance themselves. That's not how it was sold. It was sold as PROTECTION, protection. And so people who are taking all these therapies, well, they already expect to die someday. It's just a matter of time when it's going to happen. And we're in climate change too. So not only do all the therapy, because therapies were there even before climate change, but the frequency of die suddenly was not as prolific as it is now. Why is it prolific now? Because we're in aggressive heat. People are constantly taking their remedies. They're constantly still resisting the changes. And so they're out there with their friends and family, laying by the pool in this aggressive heat, denying that climate change even exists. And so they are actually putting more nails in their coffin. Maybe if they took a therapy and they didn't go out and hang out with people and they ate food and released demons, if they could, maybe they could have survived, but there's no telling. Because as soon as this climate changes and you're in your house by yourself and there's nobody around, and you feel the heat, and the weather is so aggressive that it goes from like the barometric pressure rises and falls, in like a second. People can't control. People can't deal with that kind of change. It's so aggressive. And I heard on one of these YouTube videos I'm listening to that, when summer is like, this is not your usual summer. It's like usually you get a progressive heat. So it's like a progressive change. People can handle it and get ahead of it. Some people get colds and flus, whatever. But when you go from a cold, when it's cold, like in March, and then it gets so hot in April, like so fucking hot to the point where it's not even like, from like 70 and 60 to 70 all the way up to 90, that kind of aggressive heat, that will cause a climate change in the body. And when you're out there doing stuff and you're not realizing to what extent you're in deficit, and people said, the system warned you, stay home and stay safe, wear a mask, whatever. And people aren't. And then their friends and family are dying suddenly because they're going to birthday parties, they're going to gatherings, they're going to events. They're taking all of their different, remedies. And so I had to really reevaluate how I said stuff. And so I said, let me rephrase this. Okay? the V's are like having sex. Okay, it's fertility. Now, since the V's and having a relationship with someone, is a fertility, and there is a positive and negative to fertility, the antibodies and the children that you produce from that exposure to a person, place, or thing, animal, whatever, it's your choice how you deal with the antibodies. You can release the demons and feel the pain and suffering and let your body express, and yeah, it's painful, it's rashes and all that stuff. Or you stop your body from releasing and you harbor that stuff inside until either you're lucky enough to have a baby if that's what you want, or it turns into a turbo cancer, it turns into a chronic disorder. I mean, you ultimately have the choice how you're going to deal with the antibodies. And if you choose to add more antibodies by taking the IVERMECTIN, if you choose to take the cannabis, if you choose to take all these different herbal remedies to take away the pain and suffering, you're developing antibodies. That might give you a little bit of relief for a second. But why do you keep taking them? Because it doesn't work. Why do you think people are chronic drug users? Because it doesn't work. Addiction means that you think that every time you take one, it's going to work. It might for a minute, but maybe not. Maybe it's never worked. But now your body's addicted. And so so you might feel pain, but it won't be as much pain if you keep taking these therapies. I guess that's what you tell yourself while you're addicted to cannabis and everything else, and drugs and alcohol and sex. Okay, so I had to really rephrase this information. So the public health therapies will always be fertility, but you have the choice how you manage the antibodies in your body, how you're going to manage the gene edits, because it's inevitable. You will be gene edited, whether you like it or not. And if you want to feel the pain of being edited and the pain of advancement and evolution, then the system will give you surgeries, drugs, alcohol, sex, distraction, and even resistance until you die suddenly, which you already expected anyways. The system already gave you that way out, that absolution. But if you don't want to die and you want to advance yourself and become more adaptable, it is a long journey. It is a conditioning marathon journey that not everybody is equipped to deal with. So I'm not saying I'm having any last video. I don't know, man. It's crazy. Every time I say, oh, it's my last video, it's never my last fucking video. And then something else comes up. But I might not have a lot to say because I think I've pretty much covered almost everything. I'm not saying I'm going to end up, looking like an animal. Because again, there's a prototype of my human prototype. Yes, I have taken on dog DNA because I've been around my animal. Been around other animals. And, I'm in a diverse community, but I also have an ultimate blueprint. And I'll take on the gene edits. And the gene edits might be in the food supply. I'm fine with that. I don't care. Gene edits might be in the air. I'm fine with that. I don't care. The gene edits might be out there in my community when I'm hanging out for a minute in diverse company. But again, I don't want to sit in aggressive conditions. That's the thing right now with this heat. This heat is so oppressive. And people die in this heat. People actually die in this heat. Not everybody is equipped to sit. And even if they are equipped to sit, you don't know what kind of hatchlings they have in their body that could get triggered by being in an aggressive heat. So people are going to have to manage, or have to know their own limits and manage how their body hatches these little hatchlings inside that they're going to have to deal with. And they're going to, every single time that you have a symptom, you're going to make a choice. Release the demons and eat food and hang out at home, or resist it, keep taking drugs and alcohol and things and let your body fall apart. And that's right now people are facing. Those are the two choices. Some people are saying, okay, I'm too far gone. I can't deal with the pain of regaining what I lost the last how many years. So I want to go out with a bang, and I want people with me. And when I say, I don't know if I can hang out with, that's the thing where people have to give allowances to the people around them. That when they don't want to hang out anymore, it's because they can't handle the lifestyle anymore. You know, I'm okay with going out to dinner in air conditioning. I'm okay with going into places that I'm not sitting out in oppressive heat all the time. Okay? But to sit in this oppressive heat right now, or even oppressive cold. I'm okay with cold more versus not. But still, extreme conditions are extreme conditions. And we've got to give our friends and family the allowance to bow out and not take part in these aggressive, hard-charging lifestyles. Because they are deadly to many. And again, I wouldn't get involved with other people's health issues. I wouldn't be recommending them anything, because you could be giving them something that would be the straw that breaks the camel's back. So I'm not saying that you cause their death, but why would you even, accelerate? Why would you be a party to that? And so there's lessons that I learned. Even though the person was in hospice, I'm not saying they could have, my shit could have bought them time, or it could have shortened their time. Who the fuck knows? We don't know when people are going to die. There's no way to know when someone's going to die when they're in hospice. It could be triggered by anything. But no matter what, dealing with people who are not in hospice, who are in pain and suffering, you don't want to accelerate. You don't want to be part of that. You don't want to be anywhere near that, because you can't win when you accelerate someone's death or when you make them suffer. And so you stay out of people's situations because you won't win. I mean, who wants to make anyone suffer, and who wants to be the one to be the last thing that broke the straw, that straw that broke the camel's back? You don't want to be anywhere near that kind of situation. So that's why I don't understand what those out there are selling their supplements to people. Why would you be a party to that? Now, especially in this environment. But again, ignorance is bliss, and people make too much money off of the pain and suffering of their friends and family. So whatever. So anyways, that's all I'm going to say right now. But yeah, I had to really rephrase about the VACCI and ESs. It's all fertility. Now you are the ones going to choose how you're going to deal with that fertility. All right. Will you let it destroy you, or will you let it do what it needs to do and release the demons? All right, bye.